Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom, and welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by Ducks Unlimited. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world-famous Andy Shaver.
You're looking a lot slimmer since that 5K that you did.
I did more than
waddle.
5K. The waddle, I did about 8.5 miles Saturday night.
Look at you.
Saturday.
Look at you go.
Yep, between drinks, because I actually had about 4 Crown and 7s that night. So
no wonder you couldn't
I waddled
find,
from bar to bar to bar
an
to
Uber.
bar to bar. I found an Uber. I just found a ride home.
Yeah.
I do want to do a shout out to Shane at Cedar Ridge, him and his wife. Great people walking by. We're fixing to get an Uber. Kid has a T-shirt on. He said, "Hey." I said, "Hey, Cedar Ridge." He said, "Hey, you want to do a podcast together?" And next thing I know, we're in their car, and they took us back, and so I didn't have to wait 30 minutes for an Uber. Jerry Jones has got a wonderful place, but they need to get that Uber deal worked out. Okay, with us today from Germantown, Tennessee, the head cheese at Ducks Unlimited is what we're going to call him because he's the head cheese with Ducks Unlimited here today with us, Mr. David Schuessler. David, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I don't know if I've ever been called the head cheese of Ducks Unlimited, but we'll pretend I am today. How about that?
We can pretend.
How many bosses do you have at Ducks Unlimited?
One.
And you're pretty close to the head cheese then. That's pretty damn good.
Two, if we're going to put it in that context. I have a question about your waddle. Did you do it in waders? Because apparently that became the big thing with the DU Dash was people doing 5K in their waders.
I'm a plus-size man. I don't do anything in waders.
Yeah, Jeff hires people to do things in their waders.
Yes, I'm not. And
Jeff is a pointer.
I could have the greatest waders made. Shin Gear makes the best waders on the market that are comfortable and stuff. And I promise you, Jeff's going to be on the podcast with us next Wednesday. And if he offers to send me some waders, I'm going to tell him no thank you because I'm not ever wearing waders again in my life, I hope.
Wow. That's saying a lot because Shin Gear's good waders. They're right here where I am.
Yes,
Yeah,
they are.
Great
It's nothing against their product. If I was going to wear waders, I would wear Shin Gear waders. I'm telling you right now. But I don't plan on wearing waders. I do not understand how God created an ark through Noah, and we have boats. Why you need waders?
What are you talking about?
You don't need a boat in Arkansas to hunt. There's water everywhere. Waders. You can use a boat.
No.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You hunt out of a boat in a blind.
The boats, the water's 4 or 5 inches.
They got mud motors.
Jeez.
I'm a lazy man.
You're putting way more effort into not going to get the decoys than it would to just be walk out 15 yards and pick up your decoys with waders.
Fat guys and methamphetamine users are the same. We find all kinds of ways to get our junky stuff instead of just doing the work because we're lazy.
I guess.
If you think about it, a meth head will do anything in the world. He'll steal copper out of a wall, but he won't get a real job. He'll work his ass off to get $2.47 in copper to go buy a hit. A fat guy will find a way to get out of being having to do a lot of extra strenuous work. I have never, ever wore waders and thought, boy, this is fun. Ever, not one time in my life. Have you, David?
Yeah, I have. I've worn waders a whole lot and shot a lot of ducks and thought this was a whole lot of
The
fun.
shooting the duck part is fun.
But that's just me.
Have you dry field shot ducks?
Oh, absolutely.
What's more?
And love
Okay.
it. And my new thing, because of this influx of speckle bellies into Arkansas, is dry field shooting specks. And it's like Canada in the natural state. But there are days I still have to put on waders to go out in that flooded timber.
When you shoot those geese or ducks on that dry field, you've never said to yourself, boy, this sure is nice not having to wear waders today. Not one time you've ever said that.
Every time I pull the trigger.
See, there's my point. He's converted now. He realizes now that he may just be dry field
You
hunting.
can't teal hunt in a dry field. You got to hunt water for teal.
You've got a son that can wear the waders and put the decoys out.
That's what I'm saying. You've outsourced wearing waders.
That's right. That's what I have. Let's talk about Ducks Unlimited. So the wattle was something new that y'all come up with this year, and people were doing it in waders.
Yeah, they were doing it in waders, bikes, kayaks. Like the group out, and we got down to where we had 49 states signed up, and we needed Hawaii, and we really wanted somebody in all 50 states to participate in this. So we have a retired regional director from Nevada who lives in Hawaii. His name's Mike Carrion, and somebody called him and said, Mike, we got to have Hawaii. So he has this kayaking group out there. I'm sure they kayak fish. And he talked to him. He said, well, let's do it in our kayaks. So there are all kind of different ways people were throttling their waddling.
And it goes on till the 12th, correct?
Yeah, it's going on right now.
Yeah.
First time event, really just one of those, kind of non-traditional events that we've learned more about as we've, moved through this pandemic stuff. And we didn't know how it was going to do, but as of this morning, there's over 2,000 people across the U.S. and Canada, and we've got them over in Japan, service men and women stationed over there who are DU supporters who said, well, we'll do it over here. So it was really neat, it is really neat because it's ongoing. It'll be interesting to see how many people participate in it. They're having fun. We've raised some money, like with all the money we raise, we put back into waterfowl and wetlands conservation. So this time of year, it's kind of slow in the traditional event sense. Kind of like sports, you have to take a break at some point, rest and train. And the summertime is our time of the year to do that. But a lot of these events like this that aren't those traditional big dinner events with the raffles and the auctions are going to start taking place over the summer. So it's fun. It's really neat.
When is peak time? Because we had some gentlemen out here yesterday, and they were they sell leather goods for water. They make leather lanyards and leather duck straps and stuff like that. And they were kind of talking about the summer dip that they're kind of going through right now because everybody's fishing and they're on vacation. And from what I have heard and what I have seen in my time in this industry is kind of around mid-July, after the 4th of July, people's brains start shifting towards waterfowl hunting in the fall. Is that accurate to say?
I think overall, holistically, yes. Different parts of the country, I think that switch tips a little bit sooner. And as somebody who was born and raised in the Deep South, when I thought duck hunting or Ducks Unlimited, it was something that, kind of started happening in November and December and January. Well, as I grew in my role in Ducks Unlimited and started to work with people in northern Minnesota or Montana, they're starting to hunt ducks the beginning of October, big duck season. And so they're generally done by the time we're opening up in the southern states. So I think it's a little earlier for those that are up bumping the Canadian border. But it's overall, you'll see in July, early August, that's really when we see a lot of the interest in volunteering for DU. Somebody's thought about it over the summer, or they've seen an article in a magazine or heard something on a podcast, and we'll start to see that type of interest really start to pick up in late July.
What is the biggest DU chapter when it comes to fundraisers?
Ooh, it changes a little bit from year to year. And there's a group of about 10 chapters out there that fight it out every year to see who's going to be the biggest. Houston, Denver. There's one up in Minnesota that actually is an ice fishing contest. It's called Fishing for Ducks, and it's out of Garrison, Minnesota. And in the years that the ice is perfect and the weather's perfect, their event can be so big that they play with some of those big boy traditional chapters that just hold the big dinner event. Seattle would be another one. Chicago's been up there a couple of times. So Lafayette. Now, now I'm going to have people calling me after this going, why didn't you mention us?
I know how that feels.
So, Houston, I can see for sure.
But those are just some of the ones that come to mind.
So the guy who's wanting to get a bargain on some art and some DU stuff, those are the ones you want to avoid because you're going to way overpay for that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't know if you overpay. It's what the market is that
yes,
night.
I understand.
But if you're looking for the shotgun of the year, which we have at every single dinner event. Yeah, I think the opportunity to buy one in Knox City, Texas, is going to be a little bit better to buy it lower than it would be going to Houston.
I would think so too, because we went to an event me and Tony did in Wichita Falls in February, I believe, and it was just a dinner thing. It was not a traditional big dinner. It was a I don't even remember what it was called. It had a different name for it, but grill and chill or something. And there wasn't a lot of people bidding on stuff, so our table won like 13 guns. Sitting at our
that's awesome. I think they called that one in the Wichita Falls chapter. Is a great chapter. Has been for years. I think they called that one the grilling and chilling event.
That's what it was. But anyways, there wasn't a whole lot of people there. We spent a lot of money, and the guys at our table spent a whole lot of money. Me and Tony were definitely the poor guys at our table. But everybody else there gets to go on vacations on a private jet. I fly in the back of a commercial jet when I go, so that was the difference in our table. But we win like 13 guns at our table, and it was a really good event. And I was thinking to myself, most events, you're not going to get that kind of deal because there's big money there, and there's a lot. Your money went a lot further at that little event than it did a big event. And that's why I was curious. But I had a kid here the other day that was telling me that the biggest events now are the college events. I thought Texas A&M had the biggest. He said Ole Miss is bigger than Texas A&M's. Is that true?
Well, this year, and that's we can look at what we call our university events, and we rank them differently than we do our adult events. And this year, well, it's not done yet. First of all, let me say that it's not done yet. We have another 23 days left until our fiscal year is done. But this year, Ole Miss did have a larger event than Texas A&M. And Texas A&M is one of those university chapters that has just been a powerhouse for forever. And the number of volunteers in our adult ranks, as well as the staff at DU that have come through that Texas A&M chapter is pretty remarkable. LSU has a very large university chapter. North Carolina State, which shout out to all my Wolfpack family out there. That's a chapter I started when I was a regional director living in Raleigh, is a very large chapter. And then here's a strange one, Milwaukee School of Engineering.
Wow.
MSOE. They have played at that level with those big Big 12 and old Big 12 and Southeastern Conference schools and ACC schools for years and years. So shout out to the boys and girls up at Milwaukee School of Engineering.
How do the college events differ from the like adult events, like what Jeff and them went to?
A lot more better looking women.
But I mean, is it the same general setup, a dinner and a raffle?
It is. The biggest difference it is 100% managed, organized, and held by students of that university.
Right.
Aggies are good bosses.
It's a great concept because of the life lessons that you learn putting on any size Ducks Unlimited event. And I think back to my time in school, it would have been great to understand the budgeting and the return on investment and the need to go out and make sure that you have customers there and all of those type things. A lot of people, when they think about our university chapters, they think about, well, it must be biology students or folks that are looking to get into that end of the industry that are doing it. It's a lot of business majors as well. And we've actually seen the popularity of the university program go down now into high schools. And we have high school chapters and the schools support it because they are learning to budget and plan and do all of those things in the same way that you have a glee club or you have a key club or a Civinet club. We now have Ducks Unlimited clubs in high schools across the country, which is really neat. It's really, really neat.
Well, the lessons are invaluable because, like you said, you're getting a taste of kind of what the real world's going to bring you. You got to learn how to budget. You've got to learn how to plan. You got to learn how to event coordinate, and you've also got to you got to get used to talking to people and spreading the message if you want to succeed in life. So I think the earlier that you can do things like that, the better.
Absolutely, and what we see now, we've done this long enough at the university level. We've seen that we're actually building duck hunters by doing this, and there are so many of those young adults who are on a campus who might already be doing something in the outdoors. They're fishing, or maybe they're a lifelong deer hunter, but they haven't gone duck hunting, and they join the committee as just I want to join something. I want to get involved in some way. And the last time that I looked at the science, 20% of the non-duck hunters that were joining their university committees were duck hunters, avid duck hunters, by the time that they left school. And we can argue, and I'm real good at it. How many duck hunters, how many waterfowlers do we have in this country? While we can debate and argue what that number is, I can assure you it's not growing exponentially. So this program bringing more people into that lifestyle who will support conservation, but also support our right to waterfowl hunt and have, work towards sustainable populations of waterfowl to harvest, I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
One thing I've always been impressed with about Ducks Unlimited was the business model that y'all come up with after the initial, what Ducks Unlimited was started for. You have zoned in on those guys that go to the country club, and I witnessed this firsthand at Wichita Falls 25 years ago. I didn't have any money then at all, but I would go to the DU deal, $50 to get in, and I might have $100 to buy raffle tickets and hope I got lucky and win something. And there was a guy that owned a paint and body store in Wichita Falls. He's never in his life had ever hunted, ever. But he had 2 or 3 hot little honeys sitting with him at his deal and his buddies, and he bought $10,000 worth of stuff at that DU event. To this day, he's never hunted at all. But Ducks Unlimited got $10,000 of his money, and for 3 or 4 years, he went every year and bought stuff all the time.
Right.
Just to impress his friends and because they were all going. And I thought, my God, them guys got this down to a science, boy.
Well, and
they're getting non-hunters to go spend money to help the hunters. That's a smart deal. And the guy wasn't against hunting. He just was not a hunter. It was not his wheelhouse.
And probably felt good about the support. That's probably not the only event that he went to that year in his community that he supported that he didn't have a personal connection to. Right. But obviously there was somebody in the community that sold him a ticket and made him feel good that what we're doing supports a good cause.
Sold him a table.
And we probably all, have done that. I've been asked to go to events and got there and got a couple of beers under my belt and wow, I'm going to bid on that tonight. Well, and that was good for that organization too. So it's part of the decades old recipe of what we do to raise money to do our conservation work up on the breeding grounds in important places in the U.S. And I think it's important for people to understand is waterfowl hunters are not going to be able to fund the work that needs to be done by ourselves. There's just not enough of us, whether there's 750,000 or 1.5 million, right? We can argue that number. There's not enough of us to fund what needs to be going on in Saskatchewan and Alberta and in the Dakotas and everywhere else. So part of that magic is our volunteers and our local chapters bringing their people inside of their sphere of influence in to help us fund that work.
So what do you think that the number is? Do you think it's 1.5 or do you think it's much, much lower than that? Waterfowl hunters.
This is a David Schuessler answer, not a Ducks Unlimited answer, because DU does really not have a play in any of that. I don't think it's 1.5. I think the number is lower than that. I think that it's also greatly skewed versus where it used to be. I think that in the South, there is still a heavy duck hunting ethic inside of our outdoor community. We are seeing an increase in waterfowl hunters. I can look at places that I used to hunt in high school, when I was in college, right out of college, and the number of people hunting there blows away what I used to see. At the same time, I can talk to people in Wisconsin and Minnesota and Michigan, and they will tell you that they don't have near as many hunters as they used to. So that makes it a confusing argument, because there are people who are seeing a decline. But there is no doubt, if you go to Biomeda waterfowl management area outside of Stuttgart, there are more hunters trying to get on that waterfowl management area today than there were back in the 1980s.
Right. See, I'm with you on that. I don't think there's near the hunters. Me and Andy have this debate a lot, because he's like, well, you can just look at the numbers. When I was a kid growing up in the 70s, I went to school at an elementary school that didn't have a lot of money, so we were one of the only kids that hunted it. And, I had another friend of mine whose dad hunted too, but it wasn't a lot of hunters. But if you went to some of the other elementaries, it wasn't uncommon to have families that hunted together. Nowadays, it's hard to find families that hunt. But you used to go anywhere in the Midwest, in every town during waterfowl season in the upper Midwest, everybody went hunting, duck hunting and goose hunting and stuff. You don't see that like you used to anymore. I think that Phil Robertson and them was very good at getting kids interested in waterfowl hunting again. A lot of duck hunters got sick during Duck Dynasty, guys. They were good for getting the message out about Christianity and duck hunting and conservation and all that stuff. But we do not have the hunters now that we used to have, because so many kids aren't used to guns anymore like they do. You go to a big school in California, a big high school there ain't a kid there that hunts at all.
Right. I think it was, and I believe you're spot on with the Duck Dynasty and what that was able to do. I also believe that the long running liberal season package that we have right now has offered an opportunity for people to stay in the sport as well. There's when you have those that hunt 2 times a year. I have some cousins that way. I mean, they're avid deer hunters, right? Don't miss a Saturday or Sunday during dove season, but they duck hunt 1 or 2 times a year. If you go down to 30 days, those are the ones that drop out. But because, and I say 30 days in the Atlantic and Mississippi, I think it's 74 in Texas and 108 out in the Pacific Flyway. But when you go down to a shorter season length, you see some of those drop out. So it's enabled people to stay in it longer with the way that we're managing it. And I think we're managing it well. I think we were chasing populations back in the 70s and 80s with the point system. And I think science and just the federal governments in Canada and the U.S. getting better at what they did allowed us to say we don't have to chase these populations anymore. We can take a more mature look at this and smooth out these peaks and valleys on how many days we let people hunt and how many birds they can shoot every day.
So do you think that the 1.5, because I just looked it up, 1.5 million waterfowl stamps were sold last year. Now you can argue how many of those people, like you said, how many of them hunted more than the one weekend that they went to deer camp? Do you think that those numbers are skewed because people are buying their license for something else and say, oh, hell with it, just throw on a waterfowl stamp, it goes to conservation? Or where do you think that they get that number from?
Yeah, I think that's a challenge in it because of the sportsman's packages,
right?
And the people who just put it on there in case I go, I want to go ahead and have that stamp, right? I mean, I'll use myself as an example. When I buy my out-of-state Florida saltwater fishing license every year, because I still go back home a little bit to go saltwater fishing. Do I want the reef angler free stamp? Yeah, put that on there. Right. Well, I very rarely do I go grouper fishing, but I still want to buy it just in case, I'm going to do that, and the snook permit and all those other things. And I think we've been conditioned to make sure that we have all those things that we need to have. And that's so, to me, that's what makes it a challenge to actually know exactly how many people out there are hunting.
Right. That makes sense. And boy, if that is the case, I would really like to see something change so that we could get an accurate barometer on how many waterfowl hunters we are gaining or losing, conversely, to maybe see what we're doing. Like you said, I didn't even think about the combination packages where you just get, like here, you get super combo, and I think you got everything. So,
yeah, and I know that the states and the federal government, they want that number as bad as Ducks Unlimited does.
Right.
And I think I know that they're working towards how do we, get that accurate count, because it benefits everybody. And how we make decisions to manage this vast North American waterfowl conservation plan, that's going to allow for better decisions when we get that.
On hunting license, I'll tell you what's always shocked me. Arkansas has as many out-of-state duck hunters in Missouri probably as any state, I would guess, with out-of-state waterfowl hunters. All the people that live in the state of Arkansas complain about the out-of-state hunters coming in, even though it helps the economy and stuff. I've never understood why the state of Arkansas just don't go to $500 per license. Then the in-state people can't complain because they can take that $500 and do more with it to create more places to hunt. But that is a big problem in Arkansas right now, is the out-of-state versus in-state hunters. Am I correct on that? Or a lot of debate on that.
There's a lot of debate on it. Yeah, I mean, I think for the state, it's a balancing act of how do we continue to keep those revenue sources coming in, but not price it out. Now, one of the things that they did do, and it's been 1 or 2 seasons now, is that for the public areas, and I think that's where most of the angst originates, are the public areas. They have created where there are weak blocks where out-of-state hunters are able to come in and hunt the public areas. And so there are times during the season where to get on a state area, Dave Donaldson or Biomeda, you have to live in state. And so I think that's really, it based on the people that I've talked to, that's smoothed out some of the frustration, because there are times in the season where it is just Arkansans that are allowed on those historic areas that year in and year out still have really good hunting.
I'm trying to find the exact number because Jeff has a real bad tendency of just talking and then there not being much facts, but I can't find the.
What am I talking about that don't have no facts?
Well, you pointed out Arkansas and everything. And
Arkansas, it's a huge debate.
It is a debate there.
I mean, it is. I can tell you, living a stone's throw from Arkansas and choosing to do most of my hunting in Arkansas, he is correct on that.
Thank you for saying that.
And there's a lot of out-of-state hunters that come into Arkansas. There's a lot of them that go to Texas. They're just spread out.
Right.
There's a lot of them that go to North Dakota, but it's only 2 weeks out of the year. A whole lot that went the past couple of years because of the restrictions of people being able to get into Canada with cards and all that other stuff.
North Dakota will never be what North Dakota was 10 years ago. I'm not talking about hunting. I'm talking about the people in North Dakota welcoming all the out-of-state hunters. I think you're going to start seeing a lot of that change because there's just things have changed. This new digital trespassing stuff they have, they're changing the game up there. And it's going to hurt some of them small towns.
I think that whole knock on the door and can I hunt your, back 40, I think that has changed with the access to plot maps and things of that nature on everybody's phone. Mm-hmm. And I think that doors are getting knocked on a whole lot more than they used to because it's a level playing field now. And I've been up in doing freelance hunting in Saskatchewan where we had all the maps and you have to go to the county whatever they call it, the equivalent of a county courthouse in Canada, and you get your big blue book and you've got it spread out and who owns this, and it was a lot of work to find out who owns this thing. Now let's go find them. Now it's just a push of a button on a phone. And so there are a lot of phone calls. Landowners are getting a lot more phone calls than they used to about, can I hunt your place?
We broke the law in North Dakota one year by accident. We hunted a place. We saw a wheat field and it had geese all over it, and we hunted it, and we had a good hunt. I did not realize at the time that an unharvested crop is winter wheat.
It didn't register to us that would be, for whatever reason.
We're thinking a wheat that down here, an unharvested wheat field has got heads of wheat on it, and you're fixing to cut the wheat. Well, a green wheat field is considered unharvested wheat. It hadn't headed out and had not been harvested. So we hunted it without it wouldn't have a posted sign on it. Well, you can't hunt unharvested crops without being posted. Well, the next year,
an unharvested crop doesn't have to be posted.
Right. Well, the next year we went up there and they had a sign that said, "You cannot hunt this wheat field. It is unharvested." But we shot the shit out of the geese.
There were 5 of us in the pickup, and we all looked at it because the wheat was an inch or 2 tall.
Just green wheat.
Just green wheat down here.
Yeah.
But we learned.
Yeah, winter wheat.
No harm, no foul. But we learned. But yeah, that was a boo-boo on our part. But yeah, I mean, it is so easy with these apps now. I mean, kids can go anywhere. They can hunt any state, buy the membership for that state, and they have unlimited access to every landowner that's in that state. And I think, like you said, a lot of farmers get tired of their phone ringing off the hook 4 or 5 times a day, where it used to just be a handful of hunters up there, and you might get one knock on the door when people scouted it. And now they're constantly having to tell people no. And with being able to post your land digitally now in North Dakota, I think a lot of farmers are just going to opt for that, and push of a button, their land is now posted, and they didn't even have to get out there and drive any signs in the ground. So hunting's changing.
Right. Well, think about this. I was having this conversation the other day with somebody. Used to be you'd wake up, let's say there's a storm front approaching, right? Every single local TV station to try to figure out what everybody's saying about the weather, because once you left the house or the club or the lodge or whatever, that's it. You're on your own. Now you have your phone and you can get it down to the minute that lightning and thunder is going to hit. It's just changed. I mean, everything has changed in the favor of the hunter with what we carry in our pockets.
Yes, without a doubt. So I want to know, we've come through COVID. How did DU manage the event side of things and raising money when you couldn't meet in person? Was that kind of an oh shit moment, like, what the hell are we going to do now?
Yeah, it was. It was. And going back to what we carry in our pockets, that's kind of what we turned to. So when eBay got popular, it was brought up that, hey, maybe we should get into this eBay stuff and selling some of our Ducks Unlimited merchandise that is at our events. And we said, absolutely not. We are going to hold the sanctity of the shotgun of the year and the decoy of the year and the print of the year. And by goodness, if you're going to buy it, you have to come to the event. Well, on March 20th in 2020, when I pulled that old rusty lever down and said, shut the event system off, it was a holy crap, what are we going to do? And we rethought that and said, well, in states where it is legal to do online raffles, where we had put a governor on it and said, state of South Carolina, you can only hold so many online raffles a year. We told them, go and hold as many as you want to hold. And we developed an online auction platform that it took us 17 days to build and launch. And what we realized is that we had been wrong, that there is this appetite for people to bid on Ducks Unlimited merchandise and shotguns of the year and all of that over their phone in an eBay style. And now we see that it did not impact our event system at all. So what we did is we went digital when it was, we couldn't gather and you can't do anything. And it's only been here recently that the whole country can say that they're back in event halls full time. It's what allowed us to get through that pandemic and continue to put record-breaking conservation on the ground, which we did throughout this pandemic. We weren't raising as much money as we were when we had all the events going, but boy, we sure did keep the organization healthy, at least our part of it, and what the events bring in. So it was, everybody's got them right by their in their pocket or right by their computer every day. So we turn to what everybody's holding.
So what was the thinking before that? You just wanted these items to be pristine and like you said, like you can only get these at a DU event. You didn't want to murky the waters around these items. Yeah,
and I'm mature enough to tell you that I was the one that was the driving force behind that. I mean, I kept saying, and I had my staff coming to me on a regular basis saying, "Let us try this," and I would say, "No, we're not going to auction the shotgun of the year outside of an event." We were so scared that it would have a negative impact on those traditional events, or I was so scared, and that was either it was wrong or this pandemic just changed the dynamic of everything. But what we have found is there are people who have aged out of the going to a DU event. And I've got my arms around that. I can understand that. My father's one of them. So now we're giving them the opportunity to still kind of get that live auction experience from the comfort of their home. And as I think about it, there's parts of this country where the population just isn't large enough to justify having a Ducks Unlimited event. Now those people can be involved as well. And we're doing online auctions across the country. I mean, they're legal in every state. And if somebody went to ducks.org/events and looked and then hits the auction tab at the bottom, they roll up from Oregon and New York. And it's fun because then you can play, all right, where can I go and get this piece of merchandise at a discount?
Let me ask you a question that has always been one of my things, because I've always been critical of any organization of any kind, Red Cross, Ducks, it doesn't matter what it is. And this is something that people want to know. Out of a dollar bill, how much that money gets spent on duck habitat?
So if you take all of the revenue that Ducks Unlimited raises in a year, at a minimum, 80% of our revenues have to go towards mission. And we have built-in rules that we follow through the year to ensure that happens. Ducks Unlimited is a volunteer-driven organization. So the people making the decisions are all volunteers from across the country. And our finance committee, who combs through our budgets with fine-tooth combs, are ensuring that we hit that number. And normally that number is around 83, 84% efficient.
Wow.
And so I think it's something that Ducks Unlimited doesn't take enough pride in, is when we're 85 years old this year. We've never had a financial scandal. I mean, our books are open. You can find them online. You can go to ducks.org. You can find our books and you can read top to bottom where we're spending, what we're doing. And to be 85 years old and to never have had any issues, I think it speaks to how well the organization.
I don't think that it's talked about enough, and I don't think that you guys get the recognition that you guys deserve for being such an old company. I say that 85 years old, but you've never had.
No, we're old.
You've never had a financial. You never had a financial scandal, and you keep your books open to where, if anybody did have a question, they can eat. It's on your website. Go look at it. If you got a problem with where you think we're spending our money, go look.
I think it's one of those things where we've done it for so long, we just have stopped talking about it. And it speaks to the power of the volunteers, not only those that manage the organization, those that hold the.
Name my phone. All my shit's off. We have not had a problem yet. We have
I see y'all. I'm getting no skipping on my end.
We hadn't had a problem like this. We switched to a new internet provider, and we have not had a problem until today.
Let me see.
While we're talking about this, I can tell you right now, I'm impressed. If 80 cents out of every dollar goes to the Ducks, I think that's a great thing. I would bet you that's better than any other charity out there, just about. And
I think there are others in the conservation nonprofit space that I think are similar, but it's because they follow the Ducks Unlimited model.
I was thinking more like the Clinton Foundation and the Red Cross and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, that's
they got 2%.
Well, there's stories galore out there of how these things are started, and don't follow the DU model.
No, Haiti's got $10 billion. And if you go to Haiti right now, you can't find where they've spent $10 anywhere. I wish Ducks Unlimited would advertise more of that, because I think a lot of people would really like to know that. And y'all probably do. I just did not know that. But I think that's very recommendable or commendable. And I think that anybody out there would be really impressed to say, you know what, if I go to DU and I spend $1,000 a night, $800 of that's going to the Ducks. I mean, that's I don't think anybody would ever have a problem with that.
I want to know about how to start a chapter. Is there a you mentioned population? There's a formula that kind of goes into that. How does one start a DU chapter for those people that are maybe toying with the idea today?
Go to ducks.org/volunteer and send us a message.
That's as easy as
and
that.
That's going to and then that's going to be filtered and goes to the right staff in the field.
And is there any part of the nation that is not picked over yet? Like, are there places where you're wanting to expand and have a DU chapter at, or are we pretty well established?
We're established. I don't want to say we're saturated. I mean, there's always room for more, but we have full coverage around the country. I would like a few more chapters in Hawaii. If anybody is listening on the Big Island, we need a chapter there. But it's.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's not just starting new chapters. If somebody's interested in joining an existing chapter, there's 2,400 of them out there, and they're full of like-minded people just like us. And it's a place to expand a friend base. It's a place to go and put your passion about waterfowl hunting to use. In learning more about what Ducks Unlimited does and how we ensure or work to ensure sustainable populations of waterfowl, so we get to do what we want to do every year when the cold fronts start coming south.
I don't think there's a lot of waterfowl hunters in Hawaii, because our podcast is worldwide. We have more downloads in Costa Rica per week than we do in Hawaii.
I believe that. I think there's a lot of retired duck hunters in Hawaii.
Yeah. You know, and like you said earlier, the traditional DU member is starting to age out a little bit. I look at some of our hunters, and they've been lifelong DU guys, and I think it's Steve Barber.
Yeah, he's a lifelong, big-time DU guy. Ran chapters everywhere, and I don't know that he does any DU stuff. They had a
He's
dinner.
old. He's been doing it forever.
Yeah, he's 106. He was a waiter at the Last Supper, so he's getting old. But I think that y'all's college deal, I think that is a great target, because you're building new members. And this sounds really bad, but this is my observation with young people. Young people are not charitable like older people are. Now, older people have more money, but today's kids coming up do not think of tithing and giving to other things. They're more selfish than we were growing up, I think. And so that's what I like about the college chapters.
Yeah, it's generational. We are seeing that there is a ethos inside of whatever they're calling the college-aged generation right now. I can't keep up with them. But there's an ethos inside of that generation that seems to be swinging the needle back towards volunteering.
Right. Yeah, because, I mean, I'm 34, and volunteering wasn't really preached very much to me. So I can see the young kids now where it's swinging back. Because
Andy, I didn't want to call out your generation. Your generation is the gap generation.
Yeah, the 34-year-old, the mid-30s.
Yep.
I can see that.
That's the one where it wasn't somewhere inside of not your personal upbringing, but that generation's upbringing. Volunteering wasn't talked about as much as maybe it was for my generation or the one that's coming in behind you. And I say that, that's not a personal opinion. That's just things that I've read in philanthropy magazines and newspapers.
I wonder, he was raised in a household where people donated a lot of time and efforts to other things.
But I'm wondering if that generation, my generation, the 35-year-olds, were in a time where everything was kind of established and rocking and rolling pretty well, to where
I think that's
where we weren't needed. Like,
I think that's it.
You rewind the clock 20 years when I was 15, mid-teen, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Steve Barber was a lot younger then. And his generation of guys that are aging out now had a strong grip on these organizations and were constantly doing things, and kids like me weren't needed.
I think, and I think that's, if you look at it across the country, that's what was going on, right? I mean, we were rolling, and technology was starting to build, and we were in a pretty big shift inside of society about what was important and how we were using things. And I think, technology is eventually going to slow down a little bit, and we'll all be accustomed and used to it. And then I think we'll see exactly what we're seeing right now. And I have a son that's in college, and, it's all about volunteering. I mean, that's what they're telling these kids in their classes and when they come onto campus. And so that's good. Mm-hmm. Everything is a pendulum swing, right? Everything that in society is a pendulum swing.
It's funny. 20 years ago, if you went to a DU event, there wasn't nobody on a cell phone, and there wasn't nobody texting anyone.
But I mean, this goes to everything. This goes to Little League baseball. Yes. I mean, it's baseball. It's anything that's organized. The heyday of these organizations was 20 years ago, and that's when the most people were there. And then those people are aging out. And unfortunately, Jeff did a bad job. Jeff's generation of parents did a shitty job with their kids, and that's how I look at it.
I agree.
It's not my fault.
I agree with you on that
parents.
Because I raised 3 boys, and you 3 are all semi-successful, I would say. But your ass don't even tip at Sonic, and you were raised better than that. I'm embarrassed about that. You should tip more at Sonic. That's my biggest thing I'm worried about out of life.
At Sonic.
But me and Michelle, we ran the Booster Club. I was mayor. We were involved in every civic deal. Michelle was the head of PTO. We did everything, and now you're coaching kid baseball, so you're involved. But forever, we did that for 10, 15 years.
And you had a lot of parents
around us that did that.
If you go to those
now we're all
now,
old and we're
full.
out. What do you mean it's full?
It's 4.
It's 4 people. That's
4
exactly
people.
right. When we were in Booster Club in a little town like we did, there was 30, 40 people involved in doing stuff. Now there's 4 people doing it and stuff. So our kids are not involved, but we ran everything. We just kind of took the reins like you said, and I'm sure there's some DU chapters around that's got the same guys running it for 30, 40 years.
Right.
Is it?
Well, yeah, there are, but I'll tell you that that's not a healthy. No, it's not sustainable model.
No.
What we like to see is that leadership turnover every 2 years. The chair leadership of it. Now, sometimes that's just not going to happen, right? It's just you don't have the number of volunteers or somebody who's ready to step into the role. But the churn of leadership is important. You talk about those Houston chapters in Denver. It's every 2 years, mm-hmm. and it's somebody else's turn to step in and run those programs, because we know from decades of doing this that that's what keeps it healthy.
I would agree, because there's so many times you got Joe Bob that wants to run everything, and he wants to do it his way for 20 or 30 years and doesn't want anybody to help do it, but then he bitches about not having nobody to help him. And it happens. It's all over the place. I mean, it don't matter if it's a booster club, if it's a Ducks Unlimited, whatever it is, a church fundraiser, you got that one guy or lady that wants to run everything, and she doesn't want anybody else to come in and do anything, but she wants everybody to help and do what she wants them to do. And you're right. We need, every organization needs new blood, new questions, and a rotation. Same thing with our damn Congress, our politicians. We need new politicians every 2 to 4 years. It would make things a whole lot better for our country. So every charitable organization's got to be the same.
Well, we know that it works.
Yep.
Right? I mean, the Ducks Unlimited president serves for 2 years. We have, you can only serve as a senior vice president or a regional vice president for so long, a state chairman for so long, district chairman, area chairman, and it's fresh ideas, and just making sure that we don't create a stale environment. And in that, again, I think that's what's helped us, the strength of that volunteer system, be successful as we have 85 years.
So let me ask you this, and we'll start wrapping up here because Jeff's got to go judge people. Y'all had a writer tagging along with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife doing their survey. Do you have any information as to how that went? Any duck number spoilers that you can give at this time?
Not yet, and so it's. You mentioned that we had somebody tagging along.
Yes.
So for those that don't know, Ducks Unlimited has nothing to do with those counts, right? That's all a function of Canadian Wildlife Service, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and then the states and provinces. So we kind of wait on the numbers, or we do wait on the numbers just like everybody else. I have seen nothing leaked about the numbers of Maypon counts or waterfowl. But what I can share is this, and this is from talking with people who I work with who are on the ground both in Canada and the U.S. We are in much better shape this year than we were last year. If you go back and look at the moisture index this time last year, it's just scary. I mean, it's just red all over the map. The Dakotas look good going into or coming out of the winter, and now they're just full of water. Manitoba, water everywhere. Southeast Saskatchewan, a lot of moisture. West of Saskatoon and then over into Alberta, it's still pretty dry. But we will have a much better, I feel comfortable saying this, production will be better this year than last year. But as waterfowl hunters, we have to remember that the breeding population was not as high as we would have liked to it have been returning. So don't expect 100 million bird counts and all the things that we got used to when we were in our heyday 10 years ago. It's going to be better, and we're certainly setting ourselves up to come out of this drought. If we can continue to keep moisture up there, next year could be really, really big if we get snowpack and all of that next year. But we dodged a bullet. We really dodged a bullet.
We got rain at the right time. If we'd have had another down year, it would have been real bad going into the future. Is that what you're saying?
It would have been really, really bad. And that rain, like we were, to put it in a football analogy, we were inside of the 2-minute warning at the end of the game when we got that rain.
Yeesh.
And then they got it. Yeah. I mean, it was an onside kick, onside kick, onside kick. But I feel I'm sleeping much better at night as an avid waterfowl hunter and have a tinge of excitement of what's coming next season just because I know it's going to be better than what we've been seeing. But I'm anxiously awaiting the reports to come out in early July so I can do my analysis of it and dig in and try to figure out if I'm going to see more gadwall or widgeon this year.
Well, we hadn't seen any widgeon at all in 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
It's been, I will tell you, where I hunt on the Grand Prairie of Arkansas, it's amazing how few I've seen. I don't know where they're going.
I don't either.
Probably the same place the pintail hen is because there are no pintail hens.
Well, you just never see them, Jeff.
We see flocks of pintail drakes, and we'll see,
And that's
and two hens will be with
now.
them.
I will say that's a common migration tactic that the pintail uses.
Yes.
The drakes generally migrate together, and earlier. Now, if you're seeing whole flocks in, December, I can't speak to that. But the time I lived in Texas and hunted down on the coastal prairie down there, the flocks of pintail drakes we used to see during teal season was pretty amazing. And I had a biologist tell me the hens stay up there and do the last of their brood rearing, and these old drakes like to take off from Mexico early.
We
Yes, we have
them in January though.
But
You'll
they're
see
coming.
flocks,
They're coming back up.
150, and you'll see two hens.
They're coming back up.
Or Andy, they're just getting there as warm as it's been the past 3 years.
That could be the problem there. I'm just
Seriously, I'm serious.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt you at all. It has been ridiculously warm. I am so ready. You talked about rain. I just want a normal. I don't even know what a normal winter is, but I want cold weather, snow, and we got to get these birds moving again. Because I'm afraid what's going to happen long term if these birds continue to shortstop us, wherever the hell they are. What that's going to do to the migration if that imprints on generation upon generation of young birds. That's just
well,
me.
your birds are stopping in Montana.
Yeah.
and that
Where y'all out in West Texas, you're getting birds from Montana, and I have a very close friend who works for DU. He and I hunt together at least once a year, who lives in Montana, Barry Allen, and I get a weekly report of how many are you seeing, how many you're seeing. That's where your birds have been hanging out. And they're not hunting them because their season closes so soon. And it's all snow, ice, and cold weather. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully one day we'll get all that back. I know eastern Oklahoma and eastern Texas is getting hammered with thunderstorms again right now. They're flooding in Oklahoma City right now. It's crazy, but the rain, it's we western Kansas, western Oklahoma, and western Texas did not get near the rains that we should have, and it's been pretty good the last 2 weeks. But it's been a dry year. But we at least during the drought of 2011 never had a 3-inch rain like we did the other day.
Right.
So that was a good thing for us. So hopefully we got some rain coming, and I hope that Joe Bastardi is right, and we do have an early fall in August. That would be a wonderful thing.
We need winter. We don't need.
I want winter.
Just winter.
Well, I want winter too, but you got to start winter. You got to start cooling off early, and if we get early
that's
in
the
August,
thing is we have fall, and then it just stays fall until January, and then we get this late snowstorm. We go from 75 to 2.
Well, I don't want it 110 in August, so I'll take some fall weather in August.
You take all the fall weather you want, Jeff.
I sure will. David,
I moved. One thing, and just to talk about how quick it's changed, I moved to Memphis and started hunting the Grand Prairie, Arkansas 15 years ago. The first 5 years I hunted, we iced out 3 times. We've iced out once in the past 3 years. And I mean 3 times a season. We were resetting the clock, with rice fields freezing up and even the timber. We've iced out 1 time in the past 3 seasons. It's unbelievable.
People in southern Louisiana want to blame the hot ponds, so you can only show them so much before they believe you. All right, Jeff has a full court docket. David, we appreciate your time here. Continue to do just fantastic work over there at DU.
we'd like to get you on again late August, right before hunting season starts, kind of go over numbers and forecasts and all that stuff. Everything if you got time for us.
I'll always have time for y'all. That would be great.
We appreciate that very much. I'd like to give our condolences to our friend Rebel Heron. He lost his dad, Cash, last night. Lots of prayers from us here. Good guys with the Looking Glass Duck Club podcast and good friends of ours.
And it's not too late if people want to sign up for the DU Dash, right? They can sign up now.
Correct.
It goes through this weekend, so it's not too late.
Absolutely.
Just go to ducks.org and go from there, right?
That's correct. And put your waders on.
Make
Do it.
it interesting.
Jet Stanfield style.
There you go. David, thank you so much.
Thanks, you. God
guys.
bless you, bud. Have a great day. All right, I got to go to court.
Big court day today.
I hope not. I hope there's nobody there.
How many are you judging today?
I have no idea.
Are you hungry?
Am I hungry? What do
Yes. They've done a study.
Uh-huh.
If you see the judge right after he's eaten, you have a 50% better shot at getting off.
Oh, I'm not hard to get along with anyways. If you just don't lie to me.
So had Amber Heard, had the decision been dropped after lunch, probably wouldn't be paying Johnny Depp $10 million.
What's amazing to me is that she's got $10 million to pay.
She doesn't. Her attorney said no.
How much money does she have?
Somebody asked her point blank, can she pay Johnny Depp $10 million? She said, oh, no.
How much money does he have?
I don't know.
I don't even know what the thing was about.
Defamation of character.
I know. I didn't watch any of it. Not interested at all. And I don't care. I mean, I don't care if he won or she won.
You should care if he won.
Why?
The claims were false. This has set the Me Too movement back.
Oh yeah,
15
way
years.
Back.
It has.
Yeah, Monica Lewinsky should have done that a long time ago, and it didn't happen. Well, I don't care too much. I don't care anything about Amber Heard. I didn't watch a bit of it. I don't care if she pays him $1 or if she pays him $15 million. I'm just amazed that many people in America give two craps about what two Hollywood people do or don't do. I really do. I can't believe it took up the TV wipe. But whoever had the TV was doing good because they had a lot of people watching it because everybody was watching the damn thing.
Did you see Nate Burleson call out her attorney?
No.
She kept.
Nate Burleson, the ex-football player?
Yeah, he's like a CBS
News
the
guy?
morning show.
Oh, I don't watch no more.
I don't either, shows. But I saw it all over. She just kept like kind of blaming outside influences for what the jury found. And he said, as an ex-NFL player, following a tough loss, I would always look in the mirror and see what I did wrong rather than continue to point the finger.
The attorney was?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And her jaw went like this.
Yeah.
And all of his co-hosts went like this. He said that to her.
Well, he needs to say that to her. But I don't care about them. I would much rather have seen the Epstein, the Maxwell trial.
That case is too sensitive. We're not going to see that.
It's not too sensitive. It's because they're covering it up stuff.
Would
you seriously? Elon Musk called them out on that. Did you see that?
I saw bits and pieces.
Did you see what he wrote? He said, he said, our DOJ and FBI is famous for leaking stuff. That's all they've done for the last 3 years. How come they haven't leaked out the people's names involved in the? He said, are they not doing their job?
Well,
and that's what we would like to see, though.
Evidently, he was involved with Amber Heard.
Who?
Elon Musk.
They don't have a damn thing to do with the Maxwell deal. She was overage.
He's wanting to
push
the attention.
Nobody cares. So you're telling me that his relationship with Amber Heard is more important than the underage kids and all them people?
But that's why he's
Maxwell?
wanting to shift the attention.
Nobody cares.
He's shifting.
Who cares?
Pivot.
Nobody cares who he's dating.
Pivot.
He's a grown
past.
man and she's a grown lady.
He wasn't dating.
Whatever he was doing with her, nobody
was paying her.
Nobody cares though. She's an adult. He's an adult. Nobody cares. But people care about what's on the Maxwell deal. They care about it. That's what we should be talking about.
We would have cared about it.
We still do. I still care. I still care. Anyways, I got to go. Bye.
You got to go. That's all. So evidently you're awfully hungry because you're getting pissy with me. So you're going to hand down a lot of harsh judgments today.
Don't say that.
Go. Well, you should eat. Blood sugar's low. Go sign up for the DU Dash. Go to ducks.org. It is not too late. This weekend will be the last weekend, and put some waddle in your throttle. Do it in waders. Make it tricky. That's how Jeff's going to do it this weekend. All right. Bye, everybody. Go check out all of our wonderful sponsors. Go check out Alpha Outdoor Specialties, maker of the Stanfield Stool, Dive Bomb Industries, Squad Fest, July 15th, 16th, Boss Shot Shells, Pacific Calls, Shin Gear Waders, Dirty Duck Coffee, Lucky Duck, Looking Glass Duck Club Podcast, Gun Dog Outdoors, Stanfield Hunting Outfitters, Bangtail Whiskey.